bubble tea, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have just one quick question.
Yes.
Do we have a final exam?
There's not gonna be a final.
Okay.
The last quiz will be for the final.
Okay.
So this is bobo tea, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the boba bar.
Oh.
So we don't have that many, personnel people involved. We have the owner and CEO, this is kind of like a lead manager a little bit as well, and so.
Is this you?
Yeah, this will be me, but
Alright.
if it wasn't me, you know, I don't know. But they own the company, arrange all of the travel details, so that means finding the locations and all the transportation, which will hopefully get easier after the first time, because all of the travel details will be arranged already.
And these are the pop-up shops?
Yes, the pop-ups.
Okay.
And then they're in charge of hiring all of the staff and traveling with the employees, and they're in charge of inventory.
Corey, I forget, how many people, at the beginning, at like the start, how many people do you expect to take on?
A recipe developer, a manager, and then 4 team members that are gonna be, not temporary, that's the word. So 3 permanent people and then 4 temporary people, each one. So then we'll have a recipe developer, and this person doesn't travel. They create the recipes at like a permanent location, kind of, that we rent out in like the home city, wherever we start. In terms of like discovering new recipes in which you potentially can keep up light, what are some of the ways you're going about, say, taste testing or traveling to exotic locations or just kind of experimentations, like in this facility you're talking about? Mhm.
Like, what have you envisioned in order to like come up with new recipes? How would that work?
I kind of thought that it would be a little bit of a learn as we go type of thing. And so the recipe developer would be in charge of doing all of the research and, possibly traveling to find new recipes and finding people. The manager and the owner, CEO, would be there to do taste testing as well. But then in each pop-up, we would learn more and more about like what, and then if the goal is eventually, which I think it is, to become like a permanent store, after we determine the best location, then we would have a more permanent menu, based on all the research that we've done through all the pop-ups.
Do you think even at these pop-ups, you would give out samples of maybe like exploratory recipes to kind of see like how people respond and maybe take some data?
Yeah, I think so, and since it's like pop-ups and like, sometimes possibly like in a mall or something like that, and a lot of mall restaurants in the food court do samples, or they'll walk to a different part of the area and hand out samples to get more traffic to there and also do research on the
Yeah,
recipes.
so a little bit of marketing, a little bit of taste testing.
Yes.
Great, alright.
And they will also train the manager on how to make all the drinks. And then the manager will travel with the owner, and they will be in charge of day-to-day operations, so sales, customer service. They will train all of the temporary employees on how to make the drinks and everything that comes with customer service and taking orders and things like that. So they will be kind of like a traditional manager, they just travel. And then the team members are the temporary positions, and they will be in charge of taking the orders, making the drinks, regular cleaning duties, things like that.
Gotcha. Great, good job. Any questions?
So this is kind of like 2 questions, somewhat related. So you said that the team members will be temporary, so I'm assuming, like, when you post the job listing or, and whatnot, you'll specify that this is a temporary position. And, would these people be able to come again and work for them, work for your company? Whether either pop-up or even this permanent location you're planning on long-term?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a possibility if that's something that they want, and I think there is room to evolve and possibly create another like traveling permanent position, but it could also, we just wouldn't be able to like pay for their travel or anything like that, so that would be something that they would have to work out, or if they've been with the company for a long time, if they've traveled for the pop-ups possibly, then, it could be worked out to like form another position that's like an assistant manager, traveling position. But mostly they would be seasonal employees in those locations.
Great. You know, since this week we're talking about the importance of location, like, so your environment's gonna be inside of a mall,
Yeah,
usually, right?
yeah.
What do you think in terms of, placement of this, pop-up? Is it like, you need to be as close to the food court as you find that to be most beneficial? Or do you think maybe somewhere else located in the mall to create uniqueness, or like, whatever you kind of think?
I think, I feel like the best place is like near the food court, but not necessarily like in the food court, if that makes sense. So people, when they're already going to the food court, can pass it and see it, but it's not necessarily like a part of all the restaurants, because likely people are going to get the drinks that come at the restaurants where they're at. But, the boba place that I worked at, we had a restaurant right next door, and it was in like an outdoor mall. And so being near food does help, because then people come, if there's like a wait for them to be seated, then they come and get boba before.
Okay.
So I think there is a room for it to be separate, but near.
Near the separate. And so you're saying from your experience, people would generally get boba before they eat, as opposed to after, like a coffee or
Yeah.
tea or
I
something?
think it kind of depends, because I know a lot of people who treat it like dessert
Yeah.
as well. A lot of people like to come in after they were already intoxicated from the bars. But then some people did treat it kind of like an appetizer, or, just while they were waiting.
Alright, that's interesting. Alright, any more questions? Alright, excellent job, thank you. Hugo, you're next. Kiara, were you able to email me
I
yours?
thought I did, but I didn't,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
not to be Snoopy, but I didn't see it in your email.
Yeah, it might, I'll look in the, spam. Let me see if I can, a little bit larger.
So I did it as a responsibility job because I just like how it sounds. So it's a pretty small operation, so there's not a lot of roles there. Like as I'm thinking of having something that's around 10 people. So for the setup of the organization, like installing all the equipment, creating a website, I'm thinking of not having the people who work there do it, because like it's not really their job, their place of expertise. So I'm thinking of outsourcing everything on that. For everything that's related to production, something where the main production and design team is mainly responsible, because like it's them who have to actually work on the product. So to design the product, like it's the main job of the designers, but the production team still have a say, because like they must know how it's done, or
Yeah.
everything like will be consulted, because like it's what they have to do to work. And also it's like something where the people who do the sales must be consulted, because like they know what, like they have to know what's going to be sold, or what's interesting for the market. So for the production, like it's something where the designers still have a say, but like it's not his responsibility once again. For the quality control, like it's something that the designer will have a say, and the production is accountable for what's going on. Like if there's any defect, it's something that the production fault. So it's like the quality control is done by the person who is responsible for all the products are supposed to be like are supposed to be made. No, it's supposed to be. I forgot the word. Like he has to know how the product is, like, as he designs the product, he must know the perfect state of the product, but it's like the
Like
production.
how it's, assembled, or like the final?
It's like he's the most qualified person to actually know if it's done well.
Okay, yeah. So if the final product is what is specified to be at the beginning, okay.
So for the sales part, it's like the designer is still informed for everything, because like he has to do, like he has to design products regarding what would be wanted on the market.
Yeah.
But it's mostly something that's done by either the sales specialist over there or the marketing specialist over there. So everything related to direct sales are done by the sales specialist, and everything related to like the marketing things and the specialized sales are really important for the marketing specialist, but they still really interlinked in what they do. So it's like all the tasks are linked to each other, because like sales and marketing are pretty close together.
Yeah.
And so like that's something where the accountant like we care about, because it's like it's his job doing like the earnings and everything. So
Okay.
that's it. Do you have any question?
Okay, so you are outsourcing the product itself, the manufacturing part, are you?
Oh no, I'm doing the product. Like
And-
my operation is doing and selling the product.
Okay.
It's like everything, like setting up the product, having the website.
Yeah.
Like every administrative task, I perfectly do them.
Okay, so all of this, so website development, equipment installer,
Yep.
that's all being outsourced, but the actual production is in-house.
I'm doing production and sales in-house, like a B2C sales.
Okay. Have you thought about, is that the most efficient way, you believe? Or would you, think of Apple, right? So Apple is designed by Apple, right? But assembled in China, right? And maybe that keeps the cost affordable for the average person to be able to get phones, whatever. Do you find that your cost is gonna be extremely high because of the amount of production you're doing in-house? Or would it be better to have it assembled somewhere else and sent back?
I mean, like, I'm doing something that's really niche in product, like
Yeah.
I was saying, like medieval equipment.
Yeah.
And like something, I think that's too niche to actually find people to supply, like there's always some people who like just do sales and buy at like single artisans. And but like what I want is have some standard of quality. It's like what I think is differentiating on the market, having something that I know will be reliable, really produced.
Okay.
So like it's not that maybe the most cost efficient way to do it,
But it's the
but
quality.
it's like the main selling point.
Okay, and so it's really the uniqueness of the product and the quality of the product.
And the reliability of quality, because like
And
it's
the
a big
reliability.
issue on what's available on the market. Like it's sometimes pretty hard to actually know where the things you get are created, like the place where they are created. Like there's a lot of equipment that comes from like India, and like people always say don't buy things from India, but like sometimes you can't even know they're from India.
Yeah.
So
All right, interesting. Any other questions? All right, great job. Okay.
So there's gonna be about 3 or 4 main roles. The biggest group is gonna be associates, which are the ones like selling, baking, kind of maintaining everything on the daily basis, and then there's the owner slash manager, who kind of oversees everything,
Which is you?
yeah,
Okay.
me or, I don't know, depending on. And then the human resources slash payroll would be one person, and then marketing would be its own person as well. And then I listed the stakeholders, which would kind of be like the same as the associates, owner, manager, but it also includes like suppliers, investors, the community, depending on where I open it, whether it's the airport or mall, and, the customers.
Okay. Have you put consideration like into really thinking where would you like to be located?
Not that much. When my mom had the idea, she works at the airport, so she was like, it'd be cool for like an airport stand,
Yeah.
especially if you're like, kind of like Garrett, like the popcorn had like to go as gifts and stuff.
Yeah.
So she kind of liked that idea.
Okay, so more near the gates.
Yeah,
Probably.
not outside of TSA, but inside.
And, if you were in a mall, where do you think this would happily fit?
Kind of like the stands, I wouldn't really wanna put it inside the food court, cause I feel like those are pretty oversaturated. I go to the hip a lot, so there's a lot of like snack stands all over the mall, so I don't think that would be.
And if you were to finally, let's say you were to get a huge loan or get some funding for it, and you wanted to open up a physical store, where do you think something like this would be located in Chicago or surrounding area?
I would wanna put it close to like a touristy spot and try to blow it up on like social media and stuff. I think that has a lot of success most of the time, so maybe like either a Michigan Ave or like by the beach or something like that.
Okay. And in terms of the cupcakes, are these gonna be sort of pre-made and just kept warm? Or are you like freshly baking them on site or near site?
Probably, if it's like a store, it would be on site, but if it's like a stand, like in an airport or something, it'd be off site, and it would, they'd be pre-made, but not more than like a day or two, yeah.
All right, excellent, great job. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, great job. All right, so as we continue talking about the importance of location, right? We get towards kind of summing up all of everything we learned and thinking about the different processes, systems, coordination, all the things we discussed in this class. And now we have to really you have the money, secured the funding, right? Now, how important is it going to be where you actually place yourself so that customers, suppliers, or if you're a production facility, where location will be, why it's so important? All right, so we're talking about some factors that affect location choices, center of gravity, right, in terms of location, meaning you'll be best fit between all your suppliers, your customers, maybe places you hold inventory, right? Trying to find the perfect centering point. We'll talk about the low distance method, which really corresponds to thinking of location versus the proximity of most of where your customers will be, suppliers, distribution centers, whatever, right? And how we come up with that calculation there. And then we'll talk about some financial data with break-even analysis to identify the location of the facility. So one way we say we're looking at how do you pick a location, well, you're just looking at the nearest to your target market, right? The people who are mostly apt to purchase and consume whatever it is you're selling, or your transportation method, right? How quickly can you deliver things to those potential customers based on your location? How quickly you're able to restore your inventory based on location to suppliers, and maybe just financials. So maybe it's not particularly just, those factors, but it could be something just dealing more with the financials. Think of taxes, real estate taxes, the cost of buying properties, the cost of leasing a particular place, right? All these different factors. And then determine the location of the facility and the network using the transportation method, we talked about. All right, so understand the role of geographic information systems in making location decisions and explain the implication of centralized versus forward placement of inventories and all that. All right, so facility location, process of determining geographic site for a firm's operation. So give me your take on maybe some observations you've seen out in the world of why particular places are located where they're located, right? Particular places that are successful in their operations, some businesses that you find to be quite a success. Why their location is so important, and why do you think they chose that particular location? We have some observations. I think we talked last class about Dunkin' Donuts on Harlem Avenue, right? We said that was just a matter of convenience, because maybe Dunkin' Donuts' business model is a matter of more convenience of coffee, but what's some other examples, or factors you would say? Yes, Bishop?
Probably Cinnabon, because I've always seen a Cinnabon in a mall, never as a standalone store. And I guess maybe food court, or just being in the mall is good for them because it's a high traffic area and they're known for the quality of their cinnamon rolls.
Okay, so Cinnabon. Cinnabon is, you're saying, primarily located inside of malls. Where do you normally see them inside of malls?
I guess the food court, I know I've seen one, well, one that comes to mind is the one hit mall, where it's right there, in between the hall that, goes past Victoria's Secret and it's one of those stores, Target, and then, the food court itself.
Okay, so they're near the food court, or not far away. Is it the same, you kinda think like, who's familiar with like Auntie Anne's, or those other ones? Like typically, where would you see those in?
Probably separate from the food court.
Separate, right? So you say those are separate, why is Auntie Anne's separate from the food court? And there's another one just like Auntie Anne's, I forget.
Wetzel's Pretzels?
Wetzel's Pretzels. Okay, so why Wetzel's Pretzels and, Auntie Anne's are separate from the food court? What's your analysis of that?
Because, well, they're known for their quality, it's more of a grab and go type of food.
Yeah.
And, I know at the Hip Mall, the Auntie Anne's there, it's right by one of the, entrances, and I guess it depends on the mall, but it's kind of there when you're passing by, so easy grab and go.
Yeah, excellent. So you say, okay, the product itself is more, it can be walked with, right? So you say what we're selling here can actually be walked with in the hand. So we don't necessarily need to place ourselves by places that have seating, right? Because that's not, conforms to what we actually sell. And so we do wanna have a little bit of niche by not surrounding ourselves with those other competitors. Why? Looking at all those stores creates confusion, and guess what? People make last minute choices like, oh man, I had a taste for Burger King, but they got Sbarro's. It's not good Sbarro, you know what I mean? So it's not, separating yourself creates some sort of, more concentrated focus on Wetzel's Pretzels, right? That's all you're gonna see in that little area that they're located, right? So everything is done with a purpose in terms of location. What else? Anyone can think of another unique located business, uniquely located business? Do you think Starbucks is uniquely located when it makes a decision or choice to be placed somewhere? And kind of give me some observations about some Starbucks in the city, like where they're located. Why do you think they pick some of the locations?
Normally you see Starbucks like in their own little like buildings, not like connected to other buildings. I don't know which we call that, like
Standalone.
standalone.
say, now they've adopted more of a standalone, feature, probably, especially after COVID, right? Because we've adjusted people's behavior to just want to kind of grab and go. And the second, they identify themselves singularly, so they don't have to be associated with a whole range of other Jimmy Johns, and if they were located next to a bunch of other businesses. So they create uniqueness, and they're kind of anchoring the neighborhood to say, we have something that's of value to the stakeholders within this community, because we create something unique. Yes?
I don't know if this example works, but I would say every gift shop from, like touristy places and stuff like that. I mean, it makes sense that they are nearby the monuments. So.
Yeah, so gift shops, right? So I was in LA not long ago and walking down the Hollywood Walk of Fame, right? Hollywood Boulevard or whatever, right? And you see all these gift shops, right? And you're like, well, they're aptly located because A, if you're a local, you're never gonna buy anything from here, right? So B, you have to be in a place where people are moving quickly, but they make impulsive decisions to buy things along the way. C, it can't just be, bless you, it can't just be anywhere in a city that one visit. It has to be in an area that finds high foot traffic, right? Which is like the Walk of Fame, right? So you're saying people are walking and impulsive and engaging and talking, so you're gonna see a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good example. Think of some other sort of factors. If you're a car manufacturer, you say, well, how do we make a decision about putting a Nissan plant, Toyota plant, Mercedes plant, Tesla plant? Like, for those scenarios, what do you think will be some of the factors for making that decision in terms of location? Yes.
Average income, like neighborhood income,
Why would that be a biggie?
you know, like the luxurious car brand, like the auto shop, in the neighborhood that income is high.
Yeah, okay, so you say, two things, right? You say, it kinda has to correspond to the surrounding environment, right? Because one, you're probably getting a lot of workers that you're gonna hire from that, area, right? So you don't wanna have, Rolls-Royce facility located in an extremely impoverished area. It wouldn't correspond as a stakeholder in that community, right? It would be too far off in the distance economically for people. So it have to resonate with the stakeholders in the community. What are some other factors? Picking a car manufacturing facility location, huge places, we're talking acres upon acres, thousands of acres, yes?
Like local regulations and taxes, like on how much land you own.
Yes, right? Low regulation and taxes, right? You have to be able to get the job done at the lowest cost possible. If not, those costs transfer over to the consumers, and that'll, hurt your bottom line. What else? Car manufacturing facility.
I guess where in the US it would be, because you also have to ship out these cars, so.
Yes, we would say our target market for, these Nissan cars that we're building are primarily in this area, right? You could say, well, guess what? They don't buy Nissans that much in Montana or something like that, right? So they have to be in a centralized location to reach the maximum sort of customers, even transferring to dealerships, right? Think of other things. Well, you say access to raw materials is another one, right? Really important, because if you're getting most of this stuff shipped over to begin the process itself, that's extremely costly if it's very far away, or it takes a long time to get there to begin the process of putting the car together. Other is labor market. You could say, is it heavily unionized? Is it more privatized? Some areas of this, the capital of labor is gonna be too expensive. It may not be a good choice to place it there. And so typically, you do wanna work with some of the government and politicians in the area to try to coordinate some labor things. All right, so I how do you know it's a factor affecting decision? We say, well, it gotta be sensitive to the location, right? One thing, it has to either be customers, it has to be suppliers, it gotta be a warehouse, or inventory location, or something of the sort. And in fact, it must have a high impact on the company's ability to meet these goals, right? So picking a facility, the factors attributed to it has to impact the bottom line or the goals of the company. And so we talk about some of the dominant ones. We say, okay, labor climate, right? Union, non-union, right? We gotta pay people $50 an hour. Or if we're in a non-union area, we can kind of pick what we could pay them, right? If you're in a union area, we kind of have these union contracts and agreements. You can also say, what are some other factors affecting labor in a particular area? Think of pay, how much you pay a person. What are some factors dealing with pay?
Minimum wage?
Yes, right? You say, hey, what is the legal minimum wage in this area? Right? If it's particularly high, you say at the bottom level, this is what we could pay people, right? At the minimum, and those costs will transfer over, if they're too high, over to your customer. Right, proximity to the markets, right, your target market, how close are you? Think of even something as simple as we said, like a bakery, a coffee shop. How quickly can you just run down the store to the grocery store and get everything you need and come back, right? And how quickly can you service your clients, because maybe your target market is just the neighborhood or the local community. Impacts on the environment. Why is impact on the environment so important?
For a couple of reasons. One, you could have like your perceived outlook from consumers. Like if you're a green company, like consumers may look at you more favorably. You might also have like tax benefits if you are cleaner on the environment, or you might have tax like negatives, like you might have to pay more if you're harsh on the environment.
Yeah.
If you pollute too much.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's very costly to be non-environmentally friendly, right? Because either it gets leaked out in terms of perception of how you operate your business, and what you do with your waste that you discard, how wasteful you are, how non-forward thinking you are in terms of moving with sort of a green initiative. Quality of life, right? Why is this so important? Here we're talking about manufacturing, but we can relate it anywhere. Quality of life, what does that mean? We're thinking of location. What's quality of life have to do with it? Yes.
So people may not want to live there, like maybe have to find qualified labor in certain area, because like people can make too much money to actually be worth coming to this place.
Yeah, you'd be paying them too much money, right? Maybe say the value of that. What is a big impact quality of life? Like say, if school was located 2 hours away, Concordia could travel 2 hours away, there and back. We have a pretty crappy quality of life, right? So we say distance is important in terms of the people who's gonna work there to get there, or in terms of even the customers. So like, hey, people gotta travel an hour just to get your product, that's probably not gonna work too bad, right? Proximity to suppliers and resources, we talked about that. Proximity to the parent company's facilities. Why is that such a thing? Close to the parent company's facilities.
It would be easier to get stock, like if you run out, you could just get it from like distribution centers.
Yeah, let's say it's, whether it's a product, but even besides the product, what other reason it could be? Like if the headquarters, why is it important to be close to headquarters? Right, think you want your top level managers to always have the ability to come and see what's going on. right? So you say, hey, we want people to inspect. Even Corey talked about with the Bobo tea, you know, you wanna have people that's able to walk into the mall at these pop-ups and kind of see the operations that's going on, see the day-to-day stuff, so that they're able to be very confident, right? As opposed to just looking at a screen all day and looking at numbers, looking at sales figures and stuff like that. Utilities, taxes, and real estate costs, you know, really important. One place could be extremely cheap, but too far away from your suppliers, too far away from customers. Other place could be moderately expensive to buy or lease, right? Or taxes could be high, but it may be worth it because you're gonna maximize being close to the people that wanna buy from you. And in terms of service industries, right? We say proximity to customers is important. You could think of Starbucks and restaurants, right? You wanna have the matter of convenience, getting there quickly. Transportation costs and proximity to markets, location of your competitors, and site-specific factors. In terms of location of competitors, why is that a factor? In what way could that be a factor, location, to your competitors? Yes?
I guess there's no, it's kind of simple when you think about it, because you're pretty much fighting over the same people and, competitors, they're do the same thing you're doing, and, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, think about it. If you say, hey, I'm trying to think of where to put this fast food restaurant, and you was like, well, what's some of the research and data that's already out there? But well, guess what? There's a successful fast food restaurant right over here. Maybe if we place ourselves there, since we sell similar things, we've already done, the work has already been done for us to show that there's a demand of customers here, right? So in that regard, you may wanna be close to that competitor, right? So that you can get your slice of the market, right? Your slice of the pie. In other instances, you could say, well, you know, these fast food restaurants are highly unsuccessful. We know this by the sales data that they have. They don't make a lot of revenue, and thus we don't wanna be anywhere near them, right? Because the research has already shown that, there's not high traffic for people who want that particular type of thing. All right, low distance methods, so some math here, right? The mathematical model used to evaluate based on proximity factors. How to think about it in your mind is to just look at Euclidean method is straight line method, right? Looking at coordinates. So all you're looking at is coordinates. Point A, point B, right? And there's some math there. We could say, okay, the distance here is the square root of xi minus what's that, x prime, and squared plus yi minus y prime squared, right? Sounds a little complicated, but it's actually not. When you're looking at the square root to create the distance between coordinate systems. So if you just think of a graph with an x-axis, a y-axis, you could say you draw 2 points. One could be 0, 1, right? Because 0 on the x, 1 on the y, and another location could be 2, 3, right? 2 on the x-axis, 3 on the y. And how do you draw a straight line between them, right? What's the distance between those 2 points? That's kind of a simple way to think of Euclidean method when you're looking at straight line method. Just thinking of 2 coordinates on a graph. Rectilinear distance, right? So you say, well, in real time, sometimes you can't draw a straight line in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is filled with city blocks, right? So rectilinear looks at going in a straight line and making sharp edges. So think of a rectangle, right? Think of maybe half of a rectangle, right? You're walking down the street, you're gonna hang right a block, go up another 2 blocks, angle up another 3 times, right? So you're kind of creating this rectangular assessment of distance. So we're looking at distance between 2 points with a series of 90-degree turns as along city blocks. Also, they kind of use this in looking at placement of items within a store. So you think of aisles. How are aisles placed, right? There's a whole science to that. You go in Walmart, you buy, okay, why is this in aisle 15? Why is this in aisle 19A? Why is this on the end caps? Why is this on the back? So you could think of that too. So you could look at either city blocks or think of aisles when you're looking at rectilinear distance. So here we're looking at absolute values, right? D sub I is equal to, the coordinates of, xi and x prime, plus yi and y prime. And that's how you get the rectilinear distance. Now, how do you calculate these? We say with these low distance scores, as we call, are varies by industry, right? Low distance, so we think in the distance from something. The distance from our customers, the distance from our suppliers, the distance from our warehouses, maybe even the distance from our headquarters, right? It varies. It varies based on what we're doing, what we're producing. And the actual distance, the council of the low use the actual distance to calculate the low distance score, or as we call them, LD score. What time is it? 44. Okay. Use rectilinear Euclidean distances, and lows may be expressed as the number of potential customers needing physical presence at a service facility, or the tons of products or number of trips per week for a manufacturing facility, right? So you're saying low distance is looking at either particular customers who need help, who need to be serviced, right? As in a restaurant, as in a bank, something of that sort. Or on the opposite, you're looking at a manufacturing facility and says, how far away from everything that needs to come into this place so that we're able to produce what it is we are to produce. And that can mean people, or the product itself, or the number of trips per week in terms of your shipments. So here, just a basic formula for the low distance score is low distance is equal to the sum of I times your load times your distance, right? And your LI is the load traveling between location and the proposed new facility. Center of gravity, we're looking at a starting point to evaluate locations in the target area using low distance model. So we find x coordinates, x prime, by multiplying each point's coordinates, kind of what we've done in the previous section. We'll come back to these on Monday because we're kind of gonna stay on this chapter for a while. Yeah, we'll come back to these. A few more comments. What else do I want to talk about? Okay. We'll end up there, but I want to talk just finally of thinking of, as we think of these businesses that you're proposing up here, right? And how important the role of where you're going to place these places are. And that means really your limitations of capacity. So think even, Christian, for your idea, think of maybe your limitations would be the places that's actually can supply the venues, right? The number of people to be expected. But also too, is it restricted to knowing what your target market is? Are you following some sort of previous model by the WWE to think of like, am I placing them in the same exact locations? Are you overshooting maybe capacity, let's say by putting them in venues that are too large at the beginning, right? A lot of different factors of thinking of the context of where you are within your organizational sort of creation, right? So you say at the beginning, you may not want to overcompensate by placing like All-State Arena or something of that sort, because guess what, if you find that there's not the demand you want and people show up to an empty stadium moving forward, that's gonna hurt your business, right? I think things could go viral at that point, right? Someone could say, hey, this event, these new events, we showed up at say United Center and there's only 1,000 people showed up, and that's all over social media, and guess what, your brand is gonna be hurt, right? And so you, as an executive, would think of, well, in order to build the brand, I have to create this environment of sort of greatness and exacerbated greatness. So maybe you go small so that the demand is like, hey, we sold out tickets, right? This venue can only hold X amount, and you knew you'd probably get more than that. But the point is, you're there to build some sort of perception that things are in demand. So now you can shut it off, the ordering, and say, hey, I'm sorry, we don't have any more tickets. The same happens when we go see Beyonce, Jay-Z, and whoever the case may be, right? So the great sort of, the marketing in that is to create the hype, so that things do create like, limitations. I mean, everybody can get it, right? And you can see this clearly on like seating charts when you go on some of the apps for like baseball and basketball and things of that nature. So think of also too, a more detail of the location. You say, well, how much do we charge for seating? Right, now we got the idea for the venue, people are coming in. Now you got a whole nother facet of where do people sit and how much we charge them. You go to the NBA game, it says it's gonna cost $100,000 to sit courtside, right? The seats right behind it may cost $300. Right, wow, that's a huge disparity, right? But the point is people still pay for it, right? So that whole thing of how you place things is gonna be extremely important. When we're thinking even beyond just the bigger location of physical spaces, but where do people actually gather within a physical space? Right, there's even science on line distribution, on how do you facilitate people coming into a store and lining up to get something, right? What's that experience of even that? So even think of distribution of people, are you marketing as they wait in line, right? You have posters, you have, electronic displays of ads, right? So it gets really, really in deep when you start thinking of placement, right? Location of things, advertising locations, and how you distribute people within a venue or not. All right, that's it for today. I will see you on Friday.